Hey, this is Stu, and that was an L sit. Today is going to be a little tutorial taking you right the way from beginner to not being able to lift up at all, to maybe some ideas if you're already can do an L sit and you want to do something with it a little bit more advanced. The reason I like L-sits are because they're quite uncomplicated as a shape. It's like two straight lines. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's easy, but we'll talk about that. So it's uncomplicated, but it also gives us a chance to slide in a little bit of strength work, if you're a yoga practitioner, into your practice without a lot of fuffing around. So the first thing is we'll go over a few little guidelines. And then you can have a go, and then we'll take it from there, building up in steps. So the L-sit requires a few elements to be able to do it. The first one is that you have to really, in order to create an L, you need to be able to sit in your Dandasana, so that's at 90 degrees, in order to be able to lift up with your feet not actually staying on the ground. If you don't have 90 degrees, well, we can then use something like blocks in order to lift ourselves off the floor, which gives us a little bit more room, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So the first thing is you want, if possible, to have a nice forward fold so that you can come forwards, and we're going to talk about where we're going to place our hands in a sec. The second thing is you're going to need strong hip flexors in order to keep your legs up. Yeah, so you might have an idea about that. Again, if you're a yoga practitioner and you do the standing hand to foot pose, Utthita Sthasana, and whether when you let go of your foot, whether it drops down really low. Yeah, if it drops down really low, it probably means you haven't got very good strong hip flexion capability. So we want good active range of hip flexion with a straight leg. And then the other thing we need is strength in the arms and shoulders to be able to push our shoulder girdle down, and which then will lift our body up. Yeah. So it's not so much like some of the other yoga lifts where you're contracting the low belly and shortening your torso that brings you up. It's more the pushing away from the ground and the pushing the shoulder girdle down. So from up here to down there, which is going to lift you off the floor. Okay. So those are the three elements we need, and we can work towards those as we go through things. Technique-wise, what we want to think about doing is, first of all, where we're going to place our hands. Yeah. So our hands want to be halfway between our knee and our bum, basically. If you put them back here by your bum, it's going to be quite hard to maintain that lift because all of your weight is going forwards. Yeah. Placing our hands a little bit forwards, if you watch what happens to my body as I come forwards, it increases my degree of hip flexion here, which makes the angle a little bit easier to keep as you then lift up. Yeah, it's probably going to open a little bit, but it makes it easier to start with. So where we place the hands is very important. We want to place them halfway. We want to squeeze our legs together, okay? Push through the bases or the balls of our feet. Yeah, so we've got very, very active legs. And we are squeezing this area. We're trying to lift our legs up and maintain the relationship with your torso. So gravity is going to want to pull your legs down, which is going to pull you apart. Yeah, and you're trying to resist that. So you're trying to really squeeze and almost lift your legs up And as you're lifting them, really they're just maintaining the same relationship to your torso. From there, once we've got our hands on the floor, you're pushing away with your hands, and as I say, pushing your shoulder girdle down, and that's going to then raise your legs up. So if I show you what it looks like in 3 steps, first of all, I fold forwards as far as I can go, okay? And I'm thinking about keeping that relationship. It will open up, but that's what's in my mind. From there, I'm placing my hands down nice and evenly either side. I'm going to squeeze my legs together, and I'm going to inhale. Yeah, obviously don't hold your breath the whole time, but inhale, try and lift yourself off the floor, and then release. You can stay up there for any number of breaths and then come down. So that's all very well for me to say, oh, you just do this, but in reality, the chances are that maybe your feet stayed on the floor and your bum lift, yeah? Or nothing happened whatsoever, yeah? If nothing happened whatsoever, we've got some work to do, yeah? And I think what you want to start with is just trying to lift the bum. Don't worry about the other end at all. Just think, okay, have I got enough strength in my arms and my shoulder girdle to lift my bum off the floor, yeah? Try not to round too much. Try and stay up, and then over time, just keep pressing into the floor, and eventually you'll get enough strength in your arms to lift your bum, okay? Let's say we've got to that stage, or you guys are already at that stage, then we want to think about lifting our feet, okay? Now, we can do this by placing our hands in front of us, and to start with, it's easier to lift one leg at a time, yeah? And the further I reach forward, the more difficult it's going to be, okay? So I would start with your hands around about knee level, and then trying to raise one leg at a time. Get used to that, yeah? When you can do that, squeeze both legs together, push into your hands, lift both feet together, place them down. You can hold that count. Maybe you want to hold it for 5 to build up. What you're building up there is the ability to flex your hip, yeah, against gravity. So you're building up that strength to try and maintain your legs off the floor, okay? So we're here and we're lifting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then maybe we're going to lower them under control. So notice that I always lower down slowly, yeah? I don't just go, thank God, yeah? Because that lowering down slowly is a little bit extra work. And that little bit extra work over time is what's going to build up your strength more quickly, okay? So once we've got the idea that we can now lift our legs up and we can lift our bum up, then we've got to think about actually trying to do everything together. So to start with, it's going to be more useful to give yourself a little bit more height by the use of blocks, yeah? And you're going to place some extra by your sides where you would place your hands down. So again, don't put them back at your bum or by your knee, put them halfway up your leg, okay? And remember that you still want them shoulder width. You want your hands roughly shoulder width, so don't put the blocks too far away. And this is going to give us a little bit of leeway as far as where our feet, where our angle needs to be. So from there, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lean forward, okay? Trying not to round too much, but you will round, okay? From there, I'm going to, again, squeeze my legs together. Inhale. Breathe while you're up here. Push the legs, really squeeze, lower, under control. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you come up something like this and then the feet are just hovering off the floor. So notice then that the angle is more like this, yeah? Basically you're building the strength and at least you're getting off the floor, yeah? It may be that actually you could leave one foot slightly on the floor. So from here, I'm going to lift and I'm going to keep one foot on the floor, okay? And then maybe I'm going to change them over, all right? And now I'm going to lower myself slowly. So again, I'm building up the strength in my arms and my shoulders in order to press myself away from the floor. Once we've got some of that going, yeah, we can maybe use the block at the feet end, yeah. So maybe I'll put both there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my feet up on the block. Yep, and from here I'm going to go through the same process, but this is going to take more weight into my shoulders. I'm going to lean forward, press, okay, and again, getting used to what it's like to feel all of my weight, okay. If I'm there, again, I can lift one foot, then lift the other foot, yeah, and rest myself back down again, okay. So all the time we're thinking of gradual things that we can do in order to slowly build our weight without us getting a bit depressed, yeah. No, nothing worse than just sitting there trying to go for the maximum and nothing happening. So next we want to think about, we've done all this halfway stuff, just legs, just bums. We need to see if we can get ourselves floating off the floor. And the easiest way to do that, I think, is to shorten the lever, yeah? Because as the legs come towards us, that's going to be more easy for us to contain our center of gravity and less pulling us apart, okay? So you can start with your normal sort of yoga cross leg lifts. So again, from here, I'm just putting my hands a little bit further forwards than my hips. From there, lean forwards, lift up. Okay, so that would be my first lift. The next thing is I'm going to take my legs more as if I would then be able to straighten them. So I'm taking them here, I'm taking my hands in front, leaning forward, lift. Yeah, and that might be a little bit easier than with the legs straight out in front. Okay, then once I've got there, I may just be able to hover slightly. So again, lean forwards, place my hands down. I might just lift this much. Yeah, and I might need to just keep touching my feet down. First of all, we need to just teach the body what it needs to do. And then what will happen over time is your body will think, oh, okay, I need to incorporate this, need to incorporate that, and you'll get strong quite quickly, actually, when you start doing this. Okay, so those are a few little alternatives to start with. You might have seen these, yeah? These are called parallettes. They are the short ones and the low ones. So if you have issues with your wrist and it doesn't like that extended position, yeah, this is sort of 90 degrees and shouldn't need to go any more than 90 degrees with this particular lift. But say that causes you issue, then these sorts of things are quite handy because your wrist is then like this, okay? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to line everything up. So again, you don't want that going on here or over there. You have to line up your wrist along the top here. And so the principle would be exactly the same. You would lean forward, tense the body. Yeah. Notice I nosedive first before I got my balance, and then I had to lift myself up, okay? Hopefully you can do a little bit smoother than that. So these are really quite good if you've got wrist issues. When we're thinking of incorporating this sort of thing into the practice, then you can do it when it comes to, say you're doing a forward fold, and you might want to, then you've been in here 5 breaths, you come out, you can place your hands down, lift up, and then come back down. If you want to go and do another forward fold again, hold it up for 5 breaths or whatever you may want to do. Let's say you've got to the stage where you're having some of this and some of this, but you still can't get yourself off the floor, and you'd like to feel what that might be like, okay? We can use a strap in order to help us experience what that lift will be like. And it's actually quite a bit of fun. So we get our strap and we set it quite long. Yeah, this is not the longest strap, so I've got it right towards the end. And you want the strap so that you can adjust it when you put it over your feet. So I'm going to loop this over my back because I want it somewhere just underneath the arms. I'm just going to get rid of some of the curls. I'm going to put it just beyond my feet. So I want it so that it takes me a little bit forward and I can feel that there's some tension on my legs, okay? I don't want it so tight that it's pulling me right forwards if I had that amount of hip flexion. I want to be able to sit back into it. I'm going to move that down just a little bit so it's not right underneath my armpits. So I can create that sort of L shape. So from there, what we can do is, this is now going to support our legs, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier actually. And it's really quite fun to feel what it's like to be up in the air. So you're going to lean forwards again, not too far forwards if it means this is all going to get too slack. Then from there we place our hands the same, and now when we lift up, yeah, our legs are being supported by the strap. We can even, if we want, have a little play, yeah, which is quite fun. But it allows us to work then on, lowering down, allows us to then work on, again, feeling what it's like to support our weight on our arms, okay? So we're getting used to the lift, getting used to the sensation, and what we can do is we can, over time, gradually reduce the tightness of the strap, which is going to make us also work, yeah? So if you're up there in the strap, then obviously also be trying to flex your own hips. Don't let the strap do all the work. Yes, so you're not just completely on a jolly, but I mean maybe you are. So that's one thing you can do there, which actually gives you a little bit of an advantage. Gets you going, shall we say? So let's say that I've given you plenty now to work with to get yourself going. Let's say you're continuing with that journey, and we're going to give you something maybe to work with a little bit later, or if you're already there, maybe this is some options you can play with. Once we're up, we can maybe do something with our legs. So if I'm going to lift up, and then I'm going to start alternating the legs a little bit higher, if I can. So I'm going to lean forward, press, point, together, down, yeah? You can actually really feel the quads beginning to work there, because the knees wanting to bend, so the quads are really keeping it straight. One of them will actually help with the hip flexion, but it's mostly the psoas work that's going on. So that was trying to do alternate, like swimmer kicks, basically, as slow as fast as you wanted to go. From there, we could try straddling our legs, yeah? Alternate crisscrosses. So I'm going to come forward, squeeze, lift, point. Yeah? So again, try and come back to the middle. Set yourself before you lower down. So they get you blowing. So they're quite hard work, okay? I've got a couple more things I want to show you. One is the next thing, I think, from an L-sit they call a V-sit, yeah? Now, I'll show you the V-sit I can do, but it's more like, I call it angled L-sit, yeah? Because it's tilted like this. For me, an L is this shape, and a V is this shape, much sharper angle between the body and the torso. But what I see a lot as a V-sit is what I call an angled L-sit. You have to have very, very good hip flexion and and active hip flexion in order to be able to maintain that position. You can't have much resistance in your ability to flex your hip, which I do, yeah. So what we do is I tend to come into it from this position, yeah, because it gives me that angle I want. So from there, I'm going to try and maintain this here, lift, lower, lower, okay? So what you're trying to do is your shoulders go back a little bit. You'll feel it work your arms much more, and you're trying to maintain that sharper angle, yeah? For me, it's still a work in progress. I have seen people manage to get a really, really tight angle, yeah, which is nice. One more thing I can show you to play with, and that is if you have a good forward fold, yeah, and you can get quite low. Again, I've seen people that can actually lift up. It's then not really a L-sit because you're much flatter, but it's possible for them to lift off the floor whilst they maintain this flat position of their body on their legs. Yeah. Now, I can't do that, yeah. The best I could do would be, yeah, something like that, which really opens up into near enough an L sit. But it's worth a bit of a play. So here I have another strap, yeah, this time much shorter. And the idea is that this strap is going to hold me on my legs. So it's a little bit like we did with the other strap, but more again of a little bit of a playtime really. So it's easy. I know I'm laughing because I messed around trying to get into this earlier and it's a little bit of hard work. So it's easiest if you start with bent knees, get as close as you can, and then like if you're some contortionist, come through, okay? Because I'm going to need to be held pretty low, okay? So from there I'm now in my little container, and I'm going to now straighten my legs and come onto my legs, okay? From there, I'm going to come into my press position and now lift. Yeah, that feels super cool. And you can now also pivot around, come to here, and even if you wanted, I'm just going to move this down a little bit to make myself a little bit more comfy. If you were really adventurous, you could actually do a certain number of pressings in this position, yeah. Now, it's not quite as easy to get out of, at least for me anyway. So, good. So I'm out. So hopefully you found that useful. Yeah. If there's any comments you want to leave, please do so, or any other little workshops you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. Just a really quick recap. The main things are lean forward, hands halfway between your knees and your hips. Really contract this area and try not to allow yourself to be opened up. It will happen, but you're trying not to. And then squeeze the legs together as much as possible, okay? And then really push the shoulders down. So one last view. Here we are from there. And inhale. Good, and breathe. And slowly down. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.